Root Digital, the electronic adaptation of one of my absolute favorite board games, is finally here, and to not beat around the bush, it's kind of awesome. But before I dive into it, a few things. One, this is an early access version on Steam, so you can buy it, play it, love it, but this is still a pre-final copy of the game, though as far as early access games go, this seems pretty damn complete. Two, if you are looking for an overview of Root as a game, we got you, but it's not in this video. Find the link to our Root review in the description below. Now back to Root Digital. This is a fully animated but otherwise incredibly loyal adaptation of Cole Wehrle and Leder Games' Root. You got the 4 original hyper asymmetric factions, you can play online, local pass and play multiplayer, play against AI opponents, and play certain challenge modes, which either change parameters in the game, like mixing up the cards that are available, or requiring you to achieve victory in specific ways. But most importantly, this adaptation has a dang good tutorial. Even as an experienced rootist, I was still leery about user interface and navigating this adaptation where so much information needs to be readily available and conveniently presented, so I went through the tutorials one at a time, first on the basics of the game in general, then through each of the factions themselves. Not only did the tutorials fully alleviate my fears of challenging navigation or not having quick access to explanations of different abilities and aspects of game state, but dang if they aren't a fantastic tool for teaching the core gameplay of each faction. With each tutorial taking between 15 to 25 minutes with just the right amount of guidance and handholding, you get a feel for both the game and the adaptation, and honestly, I had a ton of fun just playing through those. What's really nice about this adaptation is how cleanly it presents everything and customizes the user interface to accommodate each faction. For the most part, anything you hover over gives you quick reminders of what the icons represent, the deeper explanations of abilities and actions are on your faction board, which is just a click away. That said, even as someone with over 20 games of Root proper under my belt and now several games of digital, there are still times where I kind of lose track of what options are available on my turn, but as with anything, with practice, this issue kind of goes away. As far as presentation, the game is gorgeous. Though the artwork isn't one-to-one the same as Kyle Ferrin's brilliantly illustrated world, it clearly tries to adapt aspects of that style into the 3D models, and they look appropriately adorable. Just look at these guys, just vibing at the start menu. I want to hang out with them forever. Surprisingly, the 3D models didn't hiccup throughout the game. Some digital adaptations of board games are notoriously sloggy, and I worried that the animations would compound the issues, especially considering this was early access, but not so. The only time where I really noticed any frame rate hiccups were occasionally during the animated battles, and none of that was noticeably bad. Speaking of battles though, I imagine some people are going to get tired of the additional time that it takes to resolve a battle with your adorable Woodland Alliance Fox running against the adorable Irie Blue Jays. In truth, it doesn't really take that long, but certainly more than chucking a couple dice and removing some pieces. I've seen games where someone initiates 3 or more battles in a turn, and the repetition of entering into the animation gets to be a bit much at that point, but still, we are talking only about a few seconds of delay, and it only animates battles where human players are involved. So overall, not very bothersome, and it's pretty dope that there's little details like seeing the appropriate buildings in the background of a fight if they're in the clearing. As for multiplayer, it pretty much works as you expect. You can create public or private lobbies, change how many human or AI opponents are present, and time limits on how long someone has to take their turns. The functionality seems perfectly fine. Probably my favorite mode is the challenge mode, because having the ability to tackle the game at different angles that might not otherwise be practical in a tabletop game of Root, because time with your friends is precious. Well, here it gives you a different way that you can interact with the game, and that's a real joy. It adds a ton of replayability to the game and gives some objectives that scale the difficulty in some more interesting ways than just smarter AI. And as far as AI goes, easy, medium, and hard difficulty seem pretty appropriate. I've both lost and won in medium difficulty, and overall, opponents seem to make tactically appropriate moves. Though in my most recent game, where I dominated as the Marquise, there were tactical decisions that 3 human players at the table might have made to ensure I wasn't able to fortify myself so well, but at the cost of them unifying against me. They didn't, and my cats capitalized on their infighting, smashing them. All hail the Queen. This is easily one of my favorite digital adaptations of a board game to date. It's snappy, easy to navigate, has excellent tutorial and challenge modes that aren't realistic for the physical board game, and the animation helps it have a sort of video gamey identity of its own without stripping away any of the mechanical aspects of the game I love. Plus, they even managed to make dead battle cats look freaking adorable. Aside from what I've covered so far, my favorite features are that you can save your state and continue a game later. It gives you smart prompts based off cards available to you in advance of combat, because Lord knows I've forgotten to play an ambush card in actual tabletop route until after it was too late. And it similarly grays out certain options to you on your turn based off of resources or numbers of actions left available or whatever it is that empowers you to activate certain abilities without fully obfuscating those icons to be left out of sight and out of mind. And while there's still a part of me that wishes that the expansion factions were included, at very least the Riverfolk factions, which were released alongside the base game, because $15 isn't exactly cheap for a digital board game, what you get feels far more robust and polished than what's typical of a digital adaptation. If you like Root and have any interest at all in digital tabletop games, this is such an easy recommend. Oh yeah, and how good would a Root RTS be? Leader and Direwolf, make it happen. If you enjoyed this video, we have all kinds of other reviews, interviews, and recommendations via writing, podcast, and video here on our channel and website cardboardherald.com. Our content is audience supported, so if you want to show your support, please visit our Patreon. Thank you so much for watching. This has been the Cardboard Herald.